think about the last time you really truly looked up at the night sky and felt that sense of just wow. Well, today we're going to explore a perspective that sees all that vastness not as empty space, but as a kind of profound text, just filled with signs waiting to be read. Let's dive in.
Right off the bat, we start with this incredible verse from the Qur'an, and I want you to notice that language, swimming along in its orbit. That's not just a dry physical description, is it? It's this poetic image of a cosmos that's graceful, that's ordered, and that's moving with a purpose. It's not random. And that idea really sets the stage for everything we're about to uncover.
So this brings us to our first big idea, viewing the sky as a canopy of divine signs. And this is not about just, being amazed by a pretty sunset. It's about engaging in something the sources call reflective awe, which is a much deeper, more meaningful kind of contemplation.
Now, to really get this, we have to know this one crucial word, ayah. It's a fascinating word because it means both a sign and a verse, like a verse in a book of scripture. So get this, in this tradition, a star, a cloud, the moon, it's seen as a verse in the grand scripture of creation itself, pointing to something way beyond what you can see.
This whole perspective is really a direct invitation. It's asking us to shift from just being passive observers of nature to being active participants in understanding its message. The sky becomes this living testament, a constant, dynamic reminder of a universe that's all bound together by a sacred harmony. It's a call to the heart, not just to the intellect.
Okay, so if the heavens are a text, what's actually written in it? What are the specific signs or verses it contains? Well, the Quran points to some very specific celestial bodies and phenomena, and each one has its own lesson.
First up, the two biggest players in our sky, the sun and the moon. Now, they aren't just seen as, a ball of gas and a big rock. In this Quranic narrative, they are active governors. They are the great regulators of our days, our nights, our seasons, and our calendars. They literally bring order to our lives. And the key phrase here is, by precise calculation. This really emphasizes a universe that is meticulously designed. It's mathematical and it's reliable. This precision is put forward as direct evidence of a divine architect, and it's a real pushback against any idea of a chaotic or purely accidental cosmos.
So, what about the stars? Well, they have this fascinating dual purpose. On the one hand, they are there for pure beauty, like jewels or adornments scattered across the night sky. But on the other hand, they have this deeply practical, essential function as guides for humanity.
In this verse, you see, it really leans into that aesthetic role. There's this deep appreciation for the sheer beauty of the cosmos. The idea here is that this beauty isn't some cosmic accident. It's an intentional gift, a sign of divine generosity that's meant to inspire wonder in anyone who looks up.
The signs aren't just out there in deep space, they're right here in our own atmosphere. Winds and clouds aren't just described as weather patterns. No, they're seen as active agents of divine mercy. They are the couriers of rain, which is the very source of life and sustenance for the earth.
See how this verse presents a totally connected system? The wind isn't separate from the cloud, and the cloud isn't separate from the life-giving rain. It's a single, harmonious process, and it's presented as a clear sign of constant care and providence.
Okay, so we've seen what these signs are, but the really big question is, what are they for? This next section is all about their purpose, how these celestial signs provide guidance for our lives down here on Earth in ways that are both incredibly practical and deeply spiritual.
And what's really cool is this guidance works on two levels at the same time. First, you've got physical orientation. Literally using the stars to navigate deserts and seas, just like ancient travelers did for millennia. And then there's spiritual orientation, using the sun and moon to mark prayer times and holy months, and just using the sheer scale of the cosmos to remember our own humility.
And right here is the direct scriptural basis for that practical guidance. The verse explicitly says that the stars are for navigation. This grounds the celestial signs in the real, tangible needs of human life, which makes them both incredibly sublime and incredibly useful. For ancient people, this wasn't poetry, this was survival.
Now, this comes from a saying of the Prophet Muhammad, and it really reinforces that spiritual dimension. He encouraged his followers to see big celestial events like an eclipse, not as scary omens or reasons for superstition, but as powerful reminders, as signs that should turn your heart towards prayer and reflection.
So at the end of the day, what does this all lead to? It's a move away from fear and superstition towards awe and reflection.
Instead of being afraid of the heavens, you feel this incredible sense of belonging, of being a small but very meaningful part of a grand, ordered, and beautiful creation.
All right, this brings us to our final section, which is really a call to action. It's all about taking this knowledge we've just talked about and turning it inward, transforming it from information into personal contemplation.
And this is the ultimate takeaway right here. The harmony we see in the cosmos, the sun, moon, and stars all moving in their perfect, precise orbits, isn't just there for us to admire from a distance. It's an invitation. It's a model for us to seek that same kind of balance, that same kind of purpose and harmony within our own life.
And so the sources leave us with some really powerful questions to think about. The first one is, in our busy, screen-filled lives, how often do we actually just stop, look up, and truly reflect on what we're seeing? And then, going a layer deeper, do we actually perceive that incredible harmony up there as a call to find our own internal balance? Do we feel it as an inspiration for our own inner world?
And finally, this is where reflection turns into action. How can we actually translate that cosmic harmony into the way we live our lives, the choices we make, and the kind of people we want to be?
So let's just quickly bring it all together. The big takeaways. We've seen how this perspective reads the cosmos as a kind of living text filled with those dynamic signs, or ayat. We've learned that celestial bodies have a dual purpose. They offer practical guidance for our lives while also inspiring deep spiritual awe. And the ultimate goal of all this reflection? It's meant to foster humility and ethical living, turning the simple act of looking at the sky into a profound act of contemplation and a path to a deeper faith.
We'll end on this verse, which brings us right back to the beginning. The most fundamental reality of our lives, the cycle of night and day, is framed as a primary sign. It leaves us with the thought that these divine messages aren't distant or abstract. They are as close, as constant, and as fundamental as the rising and setting of the sun. So what will you see the next time you look up?